The footage spread across the galactic network within hours. Someone had leaked the security video of the hostage rescue. By morning, billions of beings across hundreds of worlds had watched a single unarmed human take down 7 armed predators in 4 minutes. The reaction was immediate and massive. Ji-won sat in her office watching the news feed scroll across her screens. Every major station was covering it. Analysis from military experts, debates from xenobiologists, fear from civilian populations. The galaxy was waking up to what humans really were. Human cargo hauler defeats Vexmar's gang single-handedly. Read one headline. Should humans be reclassified as predator species? Asked another. The death world apes among us, declared a third, using an old slang term for humans that had been considered mildly offensive. Now it seemed accurate. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. All member species sent representatives. The topic was singular. What do we do about humanity? Ji-won received a summons. They wanted her to testify as an expert on predator behavior and human biology. She had 3 days to prepare a presentation that might determine humanity's place in galactic civilization. She found Daeho in the medical bay getting his arm properly treated. The wound had required stitches but wasn't serious. He looked uncomfortable with all the attention. Medical staff kept finding reasons to walk past his bed. Some wanted to thank him. Others just wanted to look at him like he was some kind of exotic animal. How are you feeling? Ji-won asked. Daeho shrugged with his good shoulder. Tired, ready to leave, but apparently I can't go anywhere for a while. Station security wants me available for testimony. The whole galaxy is talking about you. I noticed. He didn't sound happy about it. I just wanted to help those kids. Now I'm some kind of symbol. Ji-won sat in the chair beside his bed. You scared Vexmar, a Dravith assassin who's killed hundreds of beings. You made him surrender without firing a shot. He was smart. He knew I wouldn't stop coming. How did you know that? Daeho was quiet for a moment. It's hard to explain. Once I started moving, something just took over. Training maybe, instinct. I stopped thinking about what I was doing and just did it. Like my body knew what to do without my brain getting in the way. Your grandfather was a soldier. Your father was a rescue specialist. You've been researching me. Daeho smiled slightly. Yeah, I grew up hearing stories. My grandfather told me about persistence, about never giving up even when everything looks hopeless. He said that's what makes humans different. We're too stubborn to quit. Is that what you did? Just refused to quit? I saw those kids. Saw Mina trying to keep them calm. Saw that Plenary merchant get shot. His expression darkened. Something in me just decided that wasn't going to happen again. And once I decided that, it was just a matter of doing what needed to be done. Ji-won made notes on her tablet. The galaxy is afraid of you now. Of all humans, that's stupid. I'm not dangerous to anyone who isn't threatening people I care about. But you could be. That's what scares them. Every human has the potential to do what you did. Daeho looked at her seriously. Every Dravith has the potential to kill with poison. Every Krellin can hunt in packs. Every Vrix is an apex predator. Why is it different when humans have capabilities? Because you hide it so well. You look harmless until you're not. Is that a bad thing? Would you prefer if humans walked around looking scary all the time? He shook his head. We learn to cooperate, to build societies, to be civilized. That doesn't mean we forget how to survive when we have to. 3 days later, Ji-won stood before the Galactic Council in a massive chamber designed to hold representatives from dozens of species. She had prepared her presentation carefully, knowing that what she said could affect humanity's future in space. The council chamber was impressive. High ceilings, holographic displays showing council members from across the galaxy, translator systems handling dozens of languages simultaneously. At the center was a raised platform where she would present. The council chairman, a Zenthi named Vorin, called the session to order. His voice carried across the chamber with authority. We are here to discuss the human question, Vorin announced. Recent events have revealed aspects of human nature that concern many member species. Dr. Park Ji-won, a xenobiologist who has studied human behavior, will present her findings. Ji-won stepped onto the platform. Hundreds of eyes watched her. She took a deep breath and began. I've spent the past week studying human biology, psychology, and history. What I've learned has changed my understanding of this species fundamentally. She brought up images of Earth on the holographic display. The planet looked beautiful from space. blue and green and white. Peaceful. Earth is a Category 9 hazard world. This means it's extremely dangerous to most life forms. High gravity, aggressive fauna, extreme weather patterns. Most species couldn't survive there for a day. More images appeared. Ancient human cave paintings showing hunts. Humans tracking animals across vast distances. Humans working together to bring down creatures much larger than themselves. Humans evolved as persistent predators. Their ancestors would wound prey and chase it for hours or days until it collapsed from exhaustion. This hunting method requires extreme endurance, intelligence, and most importantly, the ability to never give up. She showed biological diagrams. Humans have forward-facing eyes for depth perception. They can sweat to cool down, allowing them to run for hours. They have complex brains capable of planning and strategy. They're omnivores who can eat almost anything. They're social creatures who form strong pack bonds. A council member, a Krellin named Thorax, interrupted. These are predator traits. Why weren't humans classified as predators when they joined the galactic community? Because humans also evolved empathy, cooperation, and abstract thinking. They built civilizations, created art and music, developed philosophy and ethics. They looked like prey species with their soft skin and lack of natural weapons. Everyone assumed they were harmless. She showed footage of the hostage rescue. The council chamber went silent as they watched Deho move through the hub, taking down criminals with precise efficiency. This is what humans are capable of when pushed. But note what he didn't do. He didn't kill anyone who surrendered. He protected the hostages instead of using them as shields. He showed mercy to defeated enemies. This is not mindless predation. This is controlled violence used to protect others. Another council member spoke, a plenary named Wellen. But if all humans have this capability, how can we trust them? They could turn on us at any time. G1 brought up historical records. Let me tell you about human history. They fought wars against each other for thousands of years, terrible wars that killed millions. But they also formed alliances. They helped rebuild defeated enemies. They created systems of law and justice. They learned to cooperate across cultural and national boundaries. She showed images of humans working with other species, medical teams helping plague victims, rescue workers saving aliens from disasters, diplomats negotiating peace treaties. Humans are dangerous, yes, but they're also compassionate. They protect the weak. They form deep bonds with other species. They've contributed enormously to galactic civilization in the 200 years since they joined us. She paused, looking around the chamber. The question isn't whether humans are predators, they are. The question is whether being a predator makes them unfit for civilization. I argue it doesn't. Humans chose to be civilized. They chose cooperation over competition. They chose to use their capabilities to protect rather than destroy. A new voice spoke up. It was Kim Taejin, Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council. He was an older human with gray hair and tired eyes. May I address the council? He asked. Chairman Vorin nodded. You may speak, Ambassador. Taejin stood and all eyes turned to him. I understand your fear. I've seen the footage. I've read the reports. I know what my species is capable of. He paused. But I want you to understand something. We know we're dangerous. We've known it for thousands of years. That's why we developed systems of law and ethics. That's why we teach our children about compassion and restraint. He gestured to the holographic display showing Daiho. That man could have killed all those criminals. He had weapons. He had opportunity. But he chose not to. Why? Because humans understand that violence should be a last resort, not a first choice. Another council member, a Dravith named Kelvar, stood. But Vexmar was a trained assassin. One of the best. How did an untrained human defeat him so easily? Taejin smiled sadly. Because Vexmar was trained to assassinate, to kill from shadows. Daiho was trained by millions of years of evolution to hunt and survive. Different skill sets. When Vexmar lost the advantage of surprise, his training failed him. Daiho's instincts didn't. This is precisely what concerns us, Chairman Vorin said. If any human can access these instincts, any Vrix can hunt, Taejin interrupted. Any Krellin can pack hunt. Any Dravith can kill with poison. Every species has dangerous capabilities. We don't ban species because they're dangerous. We create laws and societies that channel those capabilities constructively. The debate went on for hours. Some council members wanted restrictions on human movement. Others wanted mandatory monitoring. A few extreme voices called for expelling humanity from the Galactic Council entirely. Ji-won spent the next week buried in research. Her small office became a fortress of data screens, biological reports, and historical documents. She barely slept. The coffee machine in the corner ran constantly. Every piece of information she uncovered about humans made the picture clearer and more disturbing. Earth's classification as a Category 9 hazard world wasn't just bureaucratic notation. It was a warning. The Galactic Survey had visited Earth 300 years ago, before humans developed faster-than-light travel. The survey team's report had been marked urgent and distributed to all member species. Ji-won found a copy in the deep archives. She read it with growing horror. Planet Earth supports life in the most aggressive sense possible, the report stated. Predator-prey relationships exist at every level. The dominant sentient species, humans, evolved as persistence predators at the top of the food chain. This planet has produced more apex predators per square kilometer than any other surveyed world. Recommendation: avoid contact until species develop space travel on their own. If they survive their own planet, they may be valuable allies. If not, problem solves itself. They had expected humans to go extinct. Most Death World species did. The conditions were too harsh, the competition too fierce. But humans hadn't just survived. They had conquered their entire planet. Ji-won pulled up Earth's geological and biological history. The planet had been hit by asteroid impacts that caused mass extinctions. Humans survived. Ice ages covered most continents and glaciers. Humans survived. Volcanic eruptions blocked out the sun for years. Humans survived. Pandemics killed millions. Humans survived and grew stronger. They're like cockroaches, Ji-won muttered, then immediately felt bad for the comparison. But it was accurate. Humans had an almost supernatural ability to adapt and persist through any disaster. She found military records next. Humans had only been in space for 200 years, but they had already fought in several conflicts. Every single one had ended with human victory or stalemate. Never defeat. The Battle of Proxima 3 that Hyun-woo mentioned had been particularly brutal. Krellin mercenaries, some of the galaxy's best soldiers, had dug into defensive positions on a mining colony. They had superior numbers, better equipment, and home territory advantage. They should have won. Instead, human marines had hunted them through the mining tunnels for 3 months. The Krellin tried ambush tactics. Humans adapted. They tried chemical weapons. Humans wore protective gear and kept coming. They tried starvation tactics. Humans rationed supplies and outlasted them. In the end, the Krellin surrendered. Not because they were outfought, but because they were exhausted. The humans just never stopped. They never gave up. They never showed mercy until the enemy broke. Persistence predation, Ji-won whispered. On a military scale, she found footage of human soldiers training. They ran for hours, not fast sprinting, just steady running that went on and on. They carried heavy packs over long distances. They trained to function without sleep for days at a time. They learned to track enemies, set traps, coordinate ambushes. Every human was trained to hunt. They called it survival training. Basic skills for if you got lost in wilderness. But it was hunting. Pure and simple. Ji-won started analyzing human social behavior. This part was even more disturbing. Humans formed pack bonds stronger than any other species she had studied. They would die for their packmates. They would fight impossible odds to protect their family groups. They had concepts like honor and sacrifice that other species found baffling. But they also had an ability to dehumanize enemies. The word itself was telling. Dehumanize. Make the enemy seem less than human so killing became easier. Other species didn't need this. They just saw different species as prey or predator. But humans needed to mentally separate their enemies from their own kind before they could kill efficiently. That suggested humans naturally saw all humans as pack, as family. The entire species was one huge pack that had learned to work together. It made them incredibly dangerous. A species of apex predators that had learned to cooperate instead of compete. That had learned to use tools and weapons. That had learned to think strategically and plan long-term. And they looked harmless. Soft skin, no claws, no natural armor, average strength. They looked like prey species. Ji-won finally understood why Thraken had run. The Vrix had looked at Daeho and seen past the exterior. Some instinct had recognized what humans really were. She needed to talk to more humans, understand them better. Ji-won found Hyun-woo in the station security office. He was reviewing footage from the docking bays, looking bored. I need to ask you something, Ji-won said. Hyun-woo glanced up. More questions about scary humans? Yes, do you think of yourself as a predator? He considered the question seriously. No, I think of myself as a person. But I know what I'm capable of. I've hunted people before in war. I've tracked enemies through hostile territory. I've killed when I had to. He paused. But I've also saved lives, protected civilians, helped evacuate colonies under attack. Humans aren't just predators. We're complicated. But the capability is always there. Yes, every human you meet has the genetic capability to become a hunter. We evolved that way. It's in our DNA. He smiled grimly. But we also evolved empathy and compassion. We take care of our weak. We form families and communities. We create art and music. We're not monsters. We're just very good survivors. What about Deho? He seems so ordinary. That's most humans. We're not all soldiers. Most of us just want to live peaceful lives. But if you threaten what we care about, that hunting instinct comes out. Hyun Woo pulled up a file on his screen. Want to know something interesting? Deho's grandfather was in the colony wars. Earned 3 medals for valor. His father was a rescue specialist who saved over 100 people from a station disaster. Deho might haul cargo now, but he comes from a line of people who did dangerous things when necessary. Genetics? Maybe, or maybe just human culture. We tell stories about heroes who protect others. We admire courage and sacrifice. Every human kid grows up hearing about people who stood up to danger. He looked at Jiwon. What are you really trying to understand? Whether humans are dangerous? To enemies? Yes, to friends? No, that's the thing about humans. We choose who we protect and who we hunt. We're not mindless predators. We're thinking, feeling people who happen to be very good at violence when necessary. Jiwon left the security office with more questions than answers. She wandered the station, observing humans. There were about 300 on Epsilon 7 at any given time. Traders, workers, travelers, diplomats. They all looked so normal, so harmless, but now she couldn't unsee what she had learned. She watched a human parent playing with their child, and saw a predator teaching hunting skills through play. She watched human workers laughing together and saw a pack bonding. She watched a human merchant negotiating a deal and saw a hunter sizing up opportunities. Everything humans did could be viewed through the lens of predatory evolution. They were always watching, always analyzing, always planning. It was in the way they moved, efficient, purposeful, never wasting energy. It was in the way they looked at things, those forward-facing eyes constantly tracking movement and distance. It was in the way they talked. Every conversation was information gathering, learning about others, building networks. Jiwon found herself in a human restaurant on level 4. It was called Earth Food and served dishes from various human cultures. She ordered something called kimchi stew and sat in a corner booth watching other diners. A group of human cargo haulers sat at a nearby table. They were telling stories, laughing, drinking something alcoholic. They looked relaxed, happy, completely unthreatening. Then one of them told a story about surviving a ship malfunction in deep space. He described being trapped in a cargo hold for 3 days with no food and limited air. He described staying calm, rationing oxygen, finding a way to fix the air cycler with spare parts. He described the moment rescue finally came. The others listened with complete attention. They nodded at certain points. They understood because they had all faced similar situations. Every human who went into space knew death was one malfunction away. And they went anyway. They kept going into danger because that was what humans did. They were brave in a way that other species couldn't quite comprehend, not fearless. They felt fear, but they did dangerous things anyway. That's the scariest part, Jiwon whispered to herself. They know the risks and they take them anyway. Her communicator buzzed. It was a message from Hyunwoo. Emergency in Central Hub. Hostage situation. Multiple predator species involved. This is bad. Jiwon ran toward Central Hub, her heart pounding. Whatever was happening, she had a feeling it was about to test everything she had learned about humans, and she wasn't sure the galaxy was ready for the answer. Park Jiwon had watched the marketplace footage 23 times now. Each viewing showed the same impossible thing. A Vrix predator, one of the most feared hunters in known space, had retreated from an unarmed human who was drinking coffee. She sat in her cramped research office on level 7 of Station Epsilon 7, surrounded by data screens and biological samples. For 2 years she had been studying how different predator species interacted with prey on the station. She had documented hundreds of encounters. She had watched Vrix hunt. She had seen them stalk, chase, and capture prey with brutal efficiency. Never once had she seen one back away. Jiwan pulled up the cargo hauler's registration file. Kang Daiho, age 32, born on Europa colony but raised on various ships and stations. He had been hauling cargo for 12 years, mostly medicine and basic supplies to outer colonies. His record was clean. No violent incidents, no weapons training listed, nothing that would explain what happened in the marketplace. She needed to talk to him. This was too important to ignore. Jiwan found Daiho in a small cafe on level 3, eating something that looked like noodles but probably wasn't. The cafe catered to humans and a few other species that could tolerate Earth-style food. It was called Home Taste and smelled like garlic and oil. "Excuse me, are you Kang Daiho?" she asked, approaching his table. He looked up from his noodles. His face showed mild annoyance at being interrupted during a meal. "Yeah, who's asking?" "My name is Park Jiwan. I'm a xenobiologist stationed here. I study predator behavior." She gestured to the empty chair across from him. "May I sit?" He shrugged. "Free station." Jiwan sat down and pulled out her tablet. "I saw what happened in the lower market yesterday." "With the Vrix?" Daiho's expression didn't change. He kept eating his noodles. "Nothing happened. I bought some coffee and left. The Vrix backed away from you." "Okay. That doesn't happen. Vrix don't retreat from prey, ever." Daiho finally put down his chopsticks and looked at her properly. "Look, I don't know what you want me to say. Some big alien thing was walking around, then it left. I was just standing there. Maybe it wasn't hungry. It was hunting. I've studied them for 2 years. It had selected prey. The Plenari merchants. Then it saw you and completely changed behavior. Good for the Plenari, then." Jiwan leaned forward. "I want to understand why. Would you be willing to participate in a study? I'll cover your resupply costs. All of them. I just need to run some tests, ask some questions, maybe observe you in controlled situations." Daiho picked up his chopsticks again. "Tests? What kind of tests?" "Nothing invasive. Just physical measurements, some behavioral observations, maybe exposure to recordings of various predator species to measure your reactions." "That sounds boring. I'll pay double your resupply costs." He considered this while chewing his noodles. Finally, he nodded. "Fine, but nothing weird. And I need to leave in 3 days." "Deal." Over the next 2 days, Jiwan put Daiho through a series of tests. She measured his physical capabilities. His strength was average for a human. His reflexes were good but not exceptional. His vision was standard. Nothing about his biology explained why a Vrix would fear him. She showed him videos of various predators. His heart rate stayed calm. His breathing remained steady. When she showed him footage of the Vrix from the marketplace, he barely reacted. "Doesn't scare you?" she asked. "Why would it? It's just an animal. It's an apex predator that's killed dozens of sentients." Daiho shrugged. "So are sharks. And bears. And humans, for that matter. Doesn't mean I'm going to panic every time I see one." That comment made Jiwan pause. "Humans," he'd said, as if his own species belonged on a list with apex predators. She started researching human biology more deeply. What she found disturbed her. Earth was classified as a Category 9 hazard world. That meant the planet was considered extremely dangerous to most forms of life. High gravity, extreme weather, aggressive megafauna on every continent, disease organisms that could kill in hours. But humans had evolved there. Not just survived, but thrived. Jiwan dug deeper into human evolutionary history. What she learned kept her up at night. Humans were persistence hunters. Their ancestors would wound an animal and then chase it. Not fast, just steady. They would track it for hours, sometimes days, never stopping, never resting. Eventually, the prey would collapse from exhaustion and blood loss. Then the humans would kill it, forward-facing eyes. That was a predator trait. Almost every prey species in the galaxy had eyes on the sides of their head for maximum visibility. Predators had eyes facing forward for depth perception and tracking. Humans showed their teeth when happy. Every species Jiwan knew considered bared teeth an aggressive display, a threat. But humans did it as a sign of friendship. Humans could sweat. Most species couldn't regulate temperature that way. It allowed humans to run longer than almost any other creature on their planet. The more Jiwan learned, the more disturbed she became. Humans looked harmless. They seemed friendly and peaceful. But their biology told a different story. While Ji-Won was researching, Daeho's encounter had spread through the station's predator community. Thraken the Vrix had shared its experience with other hunters. In a dark bar on level 2, 3 predators sat together discussing the human problem. Sorax was a Krellin, a pack hunter with gray skin and too many teeth. His species hunted in groups, taking down prey much larger than themselves. Vexmar was a Dravith, an assassin species known for their speed and poison. They killed alone, striking from shadows. The third was a Hruk named Golan, a massive creature that relied on strength and armor. "The Vrix is afraid," Sorax said, his voice full of contempt. "Thraken has gone soft." "Maybe," Vexmar replied. His voice was a whisper. "Or maybe Thraken was smart." "Smart? Running from a human?" "I've encountered them before," Vexmar said. 3 times. Each time I felt wrong, like I was prey instead of predator." Golan laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "You're both weak. Humans are small, soft, no claws, no armor. Easy prey. Then why don't you hunt one?" Sorax challenged. Golan stood up. "Maybe I will," but he didn't. None of them did. Because despite their words, despite their pride as apex predators, something deep in their hunting instincts warned them away from humans. Ji-Won shared her research with Choi Hyunwoo, the head of station security. Hyunwoo was human, ex-military with gray hair and scars that suggested a violent past. He read through her notes and laughed. "You just figured this out? That humans are predators?" "But you don't look like predators," Ji-Won protested. "That's part of what makes us dangerous," Hyunwoo said. "We learned to hide it. We learned to cooperate instead of compete. We built civilizations, but the instincts are still there. The hunting patterns. The ability to track and pursue and kill. Have you ever hunted something?" Hyunwoo's expression went cold. "In the war, yes. Ground combat on Proxima 3. The enemy were Krellin mercenaries, pack hunters, supposed to be unbeatable in their own territory." He paused. "We beat them. Humans are very good at war. Why? Because we never stop. That's what your research should tell you. Humans are persistence predators. We don't give up, ever. You can wound us, slow us down, hide from us. Doesn't matter. We'll keep coming. That's what scares predators like the Vrix. They can sense it somehow. They know we're hunters too." Ji-Won thought about Daeho. Quiet, tired, unremarkable Daeho who just wanted to haul cargo and drink coffee. Could he really be a predator? "He doesn't seem dangerous," she said. Hyunwoo smiled without humor. "That's the point. We don't have to seem dangerous. We just have to be capable of it. Every human you've ever met can become a hunter if they need to. It's in our DNA. Millions of years of evolution made us into the ultimate survivors. That's terrifying. To you, maybe. To us, it's just normal." Hyunwoo handed back the tablet. "My advice? Don't publish this research. The galaxy isn't ready to know what humans really are." But Ji-Won couldn't let it go. She had stumbled onto something important. The galaxy thought humans were just another species. Peaceful, weak, harmless. They had no idea they were living alongside apex predators who had chosen to be civilized. The question was, what would happen if humans chose differently? The cargo ship docked at Station Epsilon 7 with a tired hiss of releasing pressure seals. Kang Daeho stepped off the loading ramp and stretched his back, feeling every one of his 32 years in the ache of his muscles. 3 weeks in space hauling medical supplies would do that to anyone. The station's artificial gravity felt different from his ship's, heavier somehow, and it took him a moment to adjust his balance. Epsilon 7 was massive. The trade station orbited a blue-green planet that nobody lived on, making it neutral territory for all the different species in this part of the galaxy. Daeho had been here twice before, and each time the crowds amazed him. Tall aliens with too many arms walked past short ones with scales. Flying creatures dove between the upper levels, while things that looked like walking trees moved slowly through the main corridors. Daeho just needed to resupply and leave. His coffee supply was running low, and that was a crisis worth solving. He also needed some basic food items and a new air filter for his ship's recycling system. Nothing fancy, just the essentials before the long trip back to Earth. He made his way down to the lower market levels. The upper levels were all expensive shops and restaurants where diplomats and wealthy traders spent their money. The lower levels were where working people like Daeho could find good prices and basic supplies. The lighting was dimmer down here and the corridors were narrower, but the vendors were honest and the prices were fair. The marketplace stretched out in all directions. Hundreds of stalls sold everything from food to engine parts to things Deho couldn't even identify. The air smelled like a mixture of spices, ozone, and something sweet he couldn't name. Voices called out in dozens of languages, most of which his translator couldn't quite catch. He'd learned to navigate by looking for the symbols that indicated food and supplies. Deho stopped at a stall run by a Plenari merchant. The Plenari looked like rabbits that had learned to walk upright, with soft fur and large nervous eyes. This one was selling coffee, actual Earth coffee, which was rare out here in the outer stations. "How much for 2 containers?" Deho asked. The Plenari's nose twitched. 30 credits each. "Good price. Fresh from Earth trade ship last week." Deho nodded and pulled out his credit chip. As the merchant scanned his payment, Deho noticed something. The marketplace had gone quiet. Not completely silent, but the noise had dropped noticeably. Several small aliens near him had stopped moving. Their eyes were fixed on something behind him. He turned around casually, taking a sip from the coffee container he'd just bought. Nothing seemed wrong. Just more crowds, more stalls, more aliens going about their business. But something felt off. Deho had spent enough time in space to trust his instincts. When a room went quiet, there was usually a reason. Then he saw it. The creature was enormous, easily 8 feet tall even though it walked on 4 legs. Its body was covered in dark plates that looked like armor, and its limbs ended in claws that gleamed under the market lights. The head was the worst part. Compound eyes that reflected light in strange ways and mandibles that clicked together with a sound like breaking bones. Deho had seen pictures of Vrix before. Everyone in space had. They were predators from somewhere in the outer rim, banned from most civilized stations because they couldn't stop hunting. But enforcement was loose on neutral stations like Epsilon 7. As long as they didn't kill anyone in public, station security usually looked the other way. The Vrix was scanning the crowd, its head moved slowly from side to side, those compound eyes analyzing everything. Deho could see the intelligence behind those eyes. This wasn't some mindless animal. This was a hunter that thought and planned. The Plenari merchant behind Deho made a small squeaking sound. The Vrix's head turned toward the noise. Its mandibles clicked faster. It had found its prey. The creature began moving toward the Plenari stall. Other aliens scrambled out of its way, pressing themselves against walls or ducking into other stalls. No one wanted to get between a Vrix and its target. No one was stupid enough to try. Deho stood his ground, not because he was brave, but because he was tired and his coffee was finally hot enough to drink. He took another sip, watching the Vrix approach over the rim of his container. The Vrix was 10 feet away now, then 8, then 6. Then it stopped. Those compound eyes had locked onto Deho. The human stood there, average height by Earth standards, lean from years of ship food and long hours in low gravity. He wore simple work clothes, gray cargo pants and a faded blue shirt with his company's logo on the chest. Nothing about him looked dangerous or impressive, but the Vrix had stopped moving. Deho looked at the creature. The creature looked at Deho. Several seconds passed in complete silence. The Vrix's mandibles stopped clicking. Its head tilted slightly to one side as if it was confused. The claws that had been extended slowly retracted. The predator's entire body language changed from hunting mode to something else. Something that almost looked like uncertainty. Deho took another sip of his coffee. He didn't break eye contact with the Vrix. He wasn't trying to be threatening or brave. He was just tired and wanted to finish his shopping. The Vrix took a step backward, then another. Then it turned and walked away, moving quickly through the crowd until it disappeared down a side corridor. The marketplace slowly came back to life. Voices started up again. Aliens emerged from their hiding spots. The Plenari merchant behind Deho let out a long breath that sounded like he'd been holding it for hours. "Thank you," the Plenari squeaked. "Thank you, human. You saved us." Deho turned around, confused. "I didn't do anything. I just stood here." "Exactly," the Plenari said, though Deho had no idea what that meant. He finished his transaction, bought a few more supplies from other stalls, and made his way back toward the upper levels. His mind kept returning to the Vrix. Why had it backed away? He hadn't done anything threatening. He'd just been standing there drinking coffee. Strange things happened in space all the time. This was probably just another one of those things. As Deho walked through the corridors toward his ship, he didn't notice the eyes watching him. Several observers had seen the encounter in the marketplace. They were recording it, analyzing it, sharing it with others. One of those observers was Park Ji-won, a xenobiologist who had been studying predator behavior on the station for 2 years. She sat in her small research office overlooking the market, replaying the security footage for the 5th time. Her hands were shaking slightly as she made notes on her tablet. In all her time studying predators, she had never seen a Vrix retreat from prey. They were apex hunters, top of the food chain on their homeworld. They feared nothing. Until today. Until they met a human. Ji-won saved the footage and began searching through the station's databases. She needed to know more about this cargo hauler named Kang Dae-ho. More importantly, she needed to understand why one of the galaxy's most dangerous predators had looked at him and decided to run away. She had a feeling she was about to discover something that would change how the galaxy viewed humans forever. In the lower markets, the Vrix named Thraken sat in a dark corner, trying to understand what had just happened. Its instincts were never wrong. They had kept it alive for 20 years of hunting across a dozen worlds, and every instinct in its body had screamed one word when it looked at the human. Danger. But why? The human had no claws, no armor, no weapons. It was small and soft and weak. By every logical measure, it should have been easy prey. Yet something deeper than logic, something primal and ancient in Thraken's predator brain, had recognized something in that human, something that made the Vrix want to be anywhere else. Thraken decided to share this experience with the other predators on the station. They needed to know about the humans. They needed to understand that these seemingly harmless creatures were something else entirely, something dangerous. The central hub of Station Epsilon 7 was designed for large gatherings. It had high ceilings, multiple levels connected by ramps and elevators, and wide open spaces where different species could meet and conduct business. Right now it was a war zone. Ji-won arrived at the security perimeter breathing hard from her run. Hyunwoo stood behind a portable barrier with a dozen security officers. All of them looked tense. Beyond the barrier, in the central area of the hub, she could see the hostages. 23 beings sat on the floor surrounded by armed criminals. Most of the hostages were prey species. Plenari, Xenthi, a few Kullian diplomats. But Ji-won's breath caught when she saw humans among them, 3 adults and a group of children. The children were different species, maybe 8 or 9 of them. The humans seemed to be keeping the children calm. What happened? Ji-won asked Hyunwoo. Vexmar's gang hit a cargo shipment in the docking bay 2 hours ago. Security responded. They grabbed hostages and barricaded themselves in the hub. Hyunwoo's jaw was tight. They want a ship, safe passage, and 10 million credits. Standard criminal demands. Who's Vexmar? Dravith assassin. Very dangerous. He's got a mixed crew. 3 Krellin, 2 Hruk, and some smaller species handling technical work. All of them armed. All of them willing to kill. Ji-won counted 7 criminals visible in the hub. They moved with the confidence of experienced fighters. The Dravith Vexmar was easy to spot. He was tall and thin with gray skin that seemed to absorb light. His eyes were completely black. He carried 2 weapons, one in each of his 4 hands. What's the plan? Ji-won asked. Wait for them to make a mistake. Try to negotiate. Station military forces are 6 hours out. Hyunwoo's expression was grim. We've got 6 hours to keep everyone alive. And if we can't, then people die. They've already said they'll execute 1 hostage per hour if we don't meet their demands. Ji-won looked at the hostages again. One of the human adults was a woman in her 30s. She had positioned herself with the children, keeping them close. The woman's eyes were moving constantly, analyzing everything, planning something. Who's that? Ji-won pointed. Lee Min, a schoolteacher. She was giving a station tour to those kids when this started. Mixed species class from the education level. She looks calm. She's human, Hyunwoo said, as if that explained everything. The first hour passed slowly. Security tried negotiating. Vexmar laughed at their offers. He killed a Plenari merchant at the 50-minute mark just to prove he was serious. The sound of the weapon firing echoed through the hub. Ji-won felt sick. Hyunwoo's face had gone hard as stone. We need to do something, she said. Like what? We can't assault. Too many hostages. Too much open ground. These are experienced fighters in a defensive position. We'd lose half the hostages in any direct attack. At the 70-minute mark, a figure approached the security barrier. It was Kang Dae-ho. I can help, he said to Hyunwoo. The security chief looked at the cargo hauler. How? Let me take supplies to them. Food and water for the hostages. They'll want that. It shows good faith. Keeps the hostages healthy, and I might be able to do something once I'm inside. Hyunwoo studied Daeho's face. Whatever he saw there made him nod slowly. All right. But you'll be on your own. We can't provide backup without risking everyone. I understand. Jiwon grabbed Daeho's arm. What are you planning? Daeho looked at her with tired eyes. Hopefully nothing. Maybe just deliver supplies and come back. But if I see an opportunity, you're not a soldier. No. But I'm human. He said it simply without pride or fear, just a statement of fact. Hyunwoo provided Daeho with 2 containers of food and water. He also attached a tiny camera to Daeho's shirt collar, so we can see what happens. If things go bad, hit the floor and we'll try to extract you. Daeho nodded and picked up the containers. He walked toward the hub entrance with steady steps. No hurrying. No hesitation. Just a man doing a job. The criminals spotted him immediately. 3 weapons aimed at his chest. I've got supplies, Daeho called out. Food and water for the hostages. Security sent me. Vexmar moved forward. The Dravith assassin examined Daeho with those black eyes. One human unarmed, why send you? Because I'm nobody important. If you kill me, it doesn't matter much. Daeho kept his voice calm. Practical. The hostages need water. Some of those kids haven't drunk anything in 2 hours. That's not good for negotiations. Vexmar clicked his mandibles together, thinking. Finally, he gestured with 2 of his hands. Bring the supplies. Move slowly. Any sudden movements and you die. Daeho walked into the hub carrying the containers. Jiwon watched through the camera feed as he approached the hostages. Minya, the teacher, looked up at him. Their eyes met for just a second. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe? Or recognition. Daeho set down the containers and began distributing water to the hostages. He moved efficiently, making sure the children drank first. He spoke quietly to them, calming words that the camera couldn't quite pick up. One of the Krellin guards moved closer, suspicious. Hurry up, human. Daeho didn't react to the threat. He just kept working, making sure everyone got water. When he reached Minha, he handed her a water container and whispered something. She nodded slightly. He's positioning himself, Hyunwoo muttered, watching the feed. Look at where he's standing, Jiwon saw it. Daeho had placed himself between most of the guards and the hostages. Not obviously, just casual positioning that seemed natural. He finished distributing supplies and stood up. He should have walked back to the security perimeter. Instead, he turned to face Vexmar. You should let them go, Daeho said. The hub went silent. Even the other criminals looked surprised. Vexmar's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. Or what, little human? You'll stop me? Daeho's expression didn't change. He looked tired, patient, unremarkable in every way. Yes, you have no weapons, no armor. I-Team would kill you before you took 3 steps. Probably, Daeho agreed, but I'm still asking you to let them go. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'm going to stop you. And you really don't want me to do that. The threat should have been laughable. 1 unarmed human against 7 armed predators. It should have been suicide. But something in Daeho's voice made it real. Some quality that Jiwon couldn't define. Not anger, not even determination. Just a simple statement of fact. An inevitability. Vexmar felt it too. His black eyes widened slightly. His mandibles stopped moving. You're bluffing, the Dravith said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Let them go, Daeho repeated. One of the Krellin laughed, a barking sound. Kill him, Vexmar. Show him what happens to... Daeho moved. Later, when Jiwon reviewed the footage, she still couldn't quite explain what happened. Daeho didn't move with superhuman speed. He didn't transform into some combat form. He just moved with absolute economy of motion. No wasted energy. Every action flowing into the next. His hand struck the laughing Krellin's throat. The predator went down gagging. Daeho took the Krellin's weapon in the same motion and fired twice. 2 more criminals fell. Then he was moving into the shadows at the edge of the hub. The remaining criminals opened fire where he had been, but he was already somewhere else. What's he doing? Jiwon whispered. Hyunwoo's expression was grim. Hunting, the criminals panicked. These were apex predators, trained fighters, experienced killers. But panic made them sloppy. They fired at shadows. They called out to each other, giving away positions. Daeho was silent. He moved through the hub like he'd been born there, using cover, creating noise in one area while attacking from another, patient, methodical, never stopping. One of the Hruk fired at movement and hit his own teammate by mistake. Another criminal abandoned his position to find better cover, separating himself from the group. Deho took them one at a time. A shot from the shadows, a quick strike from an unexpected angle, then gone again before they could retaliate. Minha, the teacher, had moved the children to the far corner. She kept them quiet, eyes closed, covering their ears. She knew what was happening. She had recognized something in Deho from the start. 4 minutes after Deho started moving, only Vexmar remained standing. The Dravith assassin turned in circles, all 4 weapons drawn, searching for the human. "Show yourself," Vexmar called out. "Face me!" Deho stepped out of the shadows 30 feet away. His shirt was torn. Blood ran down his left arm from a wound, but he was steady on his feet. The weapon in his hand didn't shake at all. "Let the hostages go," Deho said one more time. Vexmar looked at him, really looked at him, saw what Thraken the Vrix had seen in the marketplace. This wasn't prey. This was a predator that had been pretending to be harmless, a hunter that had evolved to be patient and persistent and absolutely relentless. "What are you?" Vexmar whispered. "Human," Deho answered simply. "Now drop the weapons." Vexmar dropped them. All 4 clattered to the floor, his hands raised in surrender. "Don't hurt me," the assassin said. For the first time in his long career of killing, Vexmar felt like prey. Security flooded into the hub. They secured the criminals, checked the hostages, provided medical attention. Deho sat against a wall, letting a medic clean his wound. He looked exhausted. Normal again. Just a tired cargo hauler who wanted to finish his coffee and leave. But Jiwan had seen what he was capable of. And now she finally understood what it meant to be human.